Hey there, Todd Berry from toddberry.com. Today we're going to talk very briefly about what to consider when delegating. Delegating is it's really tough, right? It's really tough, especially for newer leaders, but it's tough in general, right? Because by nature we get into a position to lead others, not through having others do stuff. We get there because we worked hard and we became proficient in what we did, and we demonstrated, that we're the kind of person maybe that should be given an opportunity. We grew our credibility. But in order for us to really develop people, we got to become good at delegating. In order for us to not be a lid for our organization, we got to become good at delegating. And really, delegating it's actually an entire section of situational leadership, right? You're moving through the training, coaching, supporting, and then delegating phase when you are building people and building organizations, right? And that's how you build an organization. You build people and the organization gets built, right? That's just the nature of it. You grow people and you'll grow a business. And so it's a hard thing for us to do, and there's a lot of aspects to it. But these are just some things to consider when you're doing it, right? This isn't necessarily how to do it, it's what to think about. Number one is, what is the desired outcome, right? So what is the result that you're trying to accomplish that you're going to delegate for, right? Number two is, what is the importance of this thing? So, I mean, what does it mean in the big picture? Why does it got to be done? How does it affect other things? What are the other dominoes? Because that matters, right? So, there's, again, in the continuum of where people are, right? You might delegate something that's really tiny to someone because it's not a big deal, right? But you might not give them something bigger because they're not ready for it yet. And in delegation, right, in leadership and delegation, you always own the ultimate responsibility for what happens. You might not own the responsibility in that moment. You've delegated the responsibility to get it done, but you are the one still remains responsible for the result of it being done, right? And so level three is, what is the level of authority that this person is going to have? It's really, really important for you to have clarity on that, because you're going to have to articulate that. That they have the ability to make a decision up to this level, right? And it's going to differ based on what kind of delegation is, right? If you're delegating a task like, clean that room, that's a way different thing than if you're delegating a result like build a marketing plan for XYZ. Those are two, that's a little bit different, right? So it's going to have a level of authority, a level of decision making, a level of what you can access. And that's the fourth thing. What are the resources that will be available for the delegatee, right? What can they access? Because they need to know, including what is your availability, right? When and how do they communicate with you during the process? And you want to set some parameters around that too, right? Reach out to me if you've hit a roadblock, but before you reach out to me, tell me, come up with an idea. I don't want you to just reach out for me to solve it. I want you to come back to me with how you would solve it. That's part of growing someone. Number five is who. Who are you going to delegate to? And obviously you got to think about multiple things here, right? What is their skill level? What is their experience level? What kind of drive do they have, right? You don't want to delegate it to someone who's not driven, right? I mean, who's not driven to grow or move high, right? Unless you have reached an empowerment place where you completely get who they are. It has a lot to do with the relationship you've established. What is their interest? Is the area of delegation in line with where their strengths and interests are as it relates to their career? It's also a great way to develop people, right? So next is, what is the situation, right? What's involved, right? What is the complexity? What are the people that are going to be playing in the same sandbox? You want to account for that, right? Maybe this person's personality is perfect for this particular issue, or perhaps they're a little strong or not strong enough, right? You have to think about these kinds of things. And then what is the track record, right? What is the track record of this person so far? I mean, ideally, you would have already thought about that, right? Because given the nature of it, right, delegating, if you think about it, right, it starts small, right? It's just like with you. You got opportunities based on demonstrating a level of credibility. And then if you performed, your credibility grew, you got higher opportunities. That's the same way delegating works. That's the same way you think about it. So, and then the next thing you want to consider is the conversation. right? Because there's two parts to every conversation from a leadership perspective. There's the actual process of the conversation to yield the business result, right? The act of delegating and making sure you are walking through all these things that matter, so this person will know exactly what they're doing when they walk out. But there's also the personal aspect of the particular conversation. So who is the person, and what will the challenges be, and how do they best like to be communicated with, etc. So you have to think about those components too to prepare for the conversation, depending on the complexity, right? Again, if it's hey, you need to clean that thing, that's not taking very much, right? But I'm looking a little bit more, giving you a recipe that works in everywhere, but it's a little bit more for the higher kind of delegation. And then the last thing is, how do you want to monitor it, right? Because you can't micromanage. Like, two things you can't do: one, you can't be vague, and two, you can't micromanage. Otherwise, you've ruined it, right? You want to give them the ability. This is part of empowerment: is to give them the ability to feel it, right? To feel that they have that responsibility, and to take pride in the fact that you believe in that they can produce an outcome. Don't mess that up by micromanaging. Set up some reporting structures, right? Set up some benchmarking. But you want to think about that ahead of time. Ideally, right, and I'm not giving you the how-to of the conversation or the things to clarify in this quick video, but you want to know where you're headed as you have the conversation in setting up, and then you can work with them to come to what's going to be ideal for the workflow. And so there you go. So there are some things that if you consider those before you delegate, it will make your delegating work a lot better, and you get more comfortable at it, because it takes a little while to get very comfortable delegating out work when you're the one used to doing it. All right. Hope that was helpful. Take care.